Hello lovelies, so today I wanted to talk you through a little bit behind the process of this piece, some of my thoughts behind it, and just kind of how we got where we got, because this is different from my usual work. So as I'm going through here, I knew I wanted to do something different with this. I absolutely love the angle of this, and I'm going to link the photographer for that reference photo down in the description because this was a super cool piece to find. As always, all of my reference photos are found on a copyright-free platform so that I can use them in this manner. That being said, I wanted to kind of step away from that traditional harsh line art along with the cell shading that you usually see on my platform. If you noticed, I've slowly kind of started to step away from it, and I really wanted to try to do something different with this piece. So I'm just going through now and trying to get all those little details in my sketch. Thankfully, I have the reference photo up there so I can just kind of glance at it as we go along. It was a fun challenge to try to create different pieces of tack, especially on this unique angle. Now, as you see, I already had my base sketch up, so saved a lot of time on the recording just by having that done, because quite frankly, this video would be way too long, and I don't think you guys would want to see me struggle going back and forth trying to create that original base sketch, because this is a very unique angle. That being said, now that I have this base sketch done and I do see a spot that I missed, I want to go through and start adding in the colors. So I asked on my Instagram what color you guys wanted to see, and a lot of you wanted to see a bay Roan. So I'm playing with a bunch of different colors here, trying to create something unique and bay Roan-esque. It was an interesting challenge to create this color, especially on a horse in this situation. It's not something that you normally see, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm honestly happy with how it turned out. It's definitely better than I anticipated. So now I'm going through trying to add all in the base colors in. So I like to work on separate layers for my horse, my tack, and my rider when I'm doing these base colors. It just makes it easier for me to organize and understand kind of what I've done and what needs to be done still. So just kind of going through and doing them one at a time. And I really liked this green color on bay Roans, so that's something I chose for this piece in particular. I knew I still wanted them to be kind of out at a show cross country, so I figured that was a cool, unique, yet conservative color to do for a horse show. So you've noticed that I've left the mane and tail off. That's because I wanted to try to do something different than what I normally do, so I was going to leave those till last because quite frankly I was scared. So here we are trying to do some of those details from the face, working my way back. I know it's kind of hard to see on this zoomed out view, so I am working on different ways to record that for all of you. That being said, as we kind of work our way from the face to the back, you'll see as it slowly starts to come to life. So I'm using a square brush here because I wanted to just kind of roughly block things in. I wanted things to have texture and life to them. So I thought this was a cool way to do it without using the stereotypical round brush, and I'm honestly kind of happy with how it turned out. So I'm just going through adding some very basic shadows, very basic highlights, and then I'm going to come through and refine those details once I have the basic outline where I want it. So this was a fun challenge because my usual art is a lot of cell shading, so I can kind of outline it and then drag and drop. So this took a lot longer as far as the shading is concerned, but honestly, it's super satisfying to watch it come together. So one of my favorite parts about this piece is how light I made the legs. I know that it's not completely natural for them to be that light as far as the lining is concerned, but I thought it would be cool to kind of show off the details and go through and highlight all of those unique individual pieces on this piece of art. So as you watch, you'll kind of see the horse slowly come to life from front to back, and then eventually I will get to the rider. That being said, I like to work in different parts and different segments, and sometimes I jump around. It is what it is. It's my choice, my decision. You guys are watching my process, and sometimes it's a little bit chaotic, so that's okay. So watching now, you'll see kind of that rider slowly start to come to life, go up the boot, up the leg, and all the way up to the rider. Now this particular piece didn't have a whole lot of skin, it didn't have a whole lot of folds in the clothing, so that did make it a little bit easier as far as trying out a new style. That being said, I wanted to play with texture. Like, how could I show the texture difference between the boot and the pants and the vest? So it was interesting to play with some different smudge brushes and keep zooming out and zooming in to try to figure out what looks good, what doesn't. At the end of the day, I'm really happy with how it turned out. The vest is a little lighter than I wanted it to be as far as like reflective quality, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a learning experience, so you take what you learn and you move on from it. So finally kind of moving back towards these hind legs, looking at the reference photo, trying to figure out kind of where the muscles are, where they're going, what they're doing. So it was a cool experiment in using my eye to determine what goes where and how I want it to eventually look at the end of the day. So going through, kind of adding in all the little dips in the joints and the boots and on the folds around the hocks and up in the pasterns was cool. It was fun. It was definitely an interesting experiment as far as trying to do style is concerned. So eventually here I'm going to start working on the hair, and this is something I was scared to do. So I have a couple of pre-downloaded hairbrushes, but I wasn't happy with how they were looking, so I'm trying to use the Procreate stock brushes, and you'll notice that the hair is a little different than what I had originally sketched. I wanted something a little bit softer, a little bit more natural than the tied up tail, so I'm super happy with how it turned out, considering hair is not my strong suit. And I don't know, I think it turned out pretty good, all things considered. So just trying to think more of volume and shape as opposed to the individual strands, but it's definitely something I'm gonna have to continue to practice and work on. So after the hair was done, it was time for the background. And if you've watched my art before, you know I don't really do backgrounds a whole lot. So this was definitely intimidating for me to get started on the background. So I knew I wanted to do something competition-wise. So I was like, what's kind of an easier background? So I was like, okay, we'll do like a little forest with some jumps on the hill, kind of coming up towards those. So you'll see that I use the blur to kind of push things further back, A, because I don't want to have to draw in all the nitty-gritty details, and B, because I want them to be further back. So just kind of going through and determining where things would be and how they would be lit and how they would be textured. So I knew I wanted to create a scene, and the easiest way to do that was through lighting. So I'm super happy with how this eventing horse on that nice morning run looks. If you like this, watch my other videos or check me out on Instagram.